Are you serious? Are you serious? Folks, we've got some terrible news coming out of Afghanistan. Now, we know about the mudslide or the landslide. And originally they had found about 300 bodies. Well, now a double landslide that buried the entire Afghanistan village. Hundreds of rescuers have been in the mass grave holding thousands of people after authorities found that digging for bodies in 50 meters of mud and rock was impossible. The Friday tragedy is so devastating, even a wedding ceremony was waylaid in the slide. Sunday will be the day of national mourning, which is now, and Afghanistan President Palace said that the memorial ceremony has been planned. The first landslide swallowed 300 to 400 homes, and estimated 2,700 people resided there. In the rescue, almost 600 people from nearby village volunteered to help dig, but they realize it's absolutely impossible. They believe over 2,000 people have been buried alive, and they are calling this a mass grave. They've just decided to call the whole village has been buried and just call it a mass grave. And so the authorities are going to try to focus on the 4,000 survivors in the area, which are going to need food, water, and medical support. So please pray for the people there in Afghanistan. It's a horrendous, horrendous situation. Now, we also have information I want to give you. This is a serious alert. We know that Ebola is spreading in 7 northern African countries and Italy. We also know the first case of SARS has been detected in New York. Now we have the first case of MERS, and it has been spotted in Indiana, right here, not far from where I'm at now, about an hour straight north of where I'm at in Munster, Indiana. What happened was the first case of MERS. Now, MERS is what's known as the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. It's primarily in Saudi Arabia, right around where Mecca is, where they go to Mecca and they walk and the Muslim worshippers, 2 million a year usually go and they march around that black stone. Well, that is where the source of the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome is. And the Center for Disease Control is telling us that the first case of this in America has been discovered in Indiana. Apparently the CDC is saying that, and the Indiana health officials are telling us that a patient is in healthcare provider. He traveled recently from Saudi Arabia, so he came back from Saudi Arabia, and they are calling the case a rapidly evolving situation. Now, here's why. The CD says here's why it's a problem. Because it is an airborne disease, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. They say the patient left Saudi Arabia, flew to London, England. So he was on a plane with probably, 200, 250 people breathing the same air. After he got to London, England, he then took a plane to Chicago, and there you have another 250 or 300 people, again, exposed to this by air. Then when he arrived in Chicago, the patient took a bus, exposed another 50, 60 people to Indiana. And then once he got to Indiana on the 27th of April, the patient began experiencing more respiratory symptoms, including shortness of breath, coughing, and fever. The patient went to an emergency department in Munster, Indiana, in the hospital, and he was admitted the same day. On the 28th of April, patient is being well cared for. He is in isolation right now in a hospital in Munster, Indiana. Now, since 2012, when this plague, this pestilence, this disease broke loose, MERS has caused 339 people to be affected with it in Saudi Arabia. killing 1/3 of them. All right, killing 1/3. The other 2/3, of course, get extremely ill. There is no vaccination for this, so the last thing we need would be an epidemic or a pandemic with MERS, but we have it here in Indiana, and that's not a good thing. I mean, I'm very concerned about everyone on the plane from Saudi Arabia to London, everybody from London to Chicago, everybody from Chicago to by bus to Indiana, and anyone else that this individual may have come in contact with MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. And what's really weird is the source of this thing is right there in Mecca. I'm just saying. Now, when you go to the Bible, you know that Jesus was asked about if he could tell them what are the signs of his coming and the end of the world. And Jesus told us that there would be. And he specifically said these things. He was asked the question by the disciples, could you tell us the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? In Matthew 24, verse 3, Jesus answered, said, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence, or diseases, or plagues, and earthquakes in divers places, and all of these are the beginning of sorrows. It goes on to talk about persecution of Christians, the gospel being preached in all the world, wickedness being everywhere, the abomination of desolation, and on and on and on. We have more. But again, MERS is in Indiana. We'll continue to pray for the individual that is sick. We'll continue to pray for all those that were exposed. We're going to continue to pray that this doesn't become an epidemic or a pandemic here in the United States of America. Don't miss tonight's live broadcast, special broadcast, because we've got planes derailing, buses crashing, more ferries turning over, more situations developing in the Middle East. John Kerry is now calling, not John Kerry, excuse me, I take that back. I meant to say one of John Kerry's aides is called for an intifada. I want to tell you all about this and what's going on with the Malaysian plane and what else. Earthquake 6.6 and a 6.1 just south of the Fiji Islands. I'm telling you, there's a lot going on, and we've got information about the comet Linear, and there's a whole lot more we're going to discuss tonight on the coming apocalypse at my website. It's Sunday Night Live. We have a live chat room right there go to my website, www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. That's www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. Don't miss tonight, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. At 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at my website, or at livestream.com, or at newlivestream.com, or on Roku satellite television. If you go to the new live stream channel and just type my name, Paul Begley, or Coming Apocalypse, you'll find it. Or on blogtalkradio.com, or on your cell phones by simply calling this number, 347-324-5208. That's 347-324-5208. And you can listen to all 3 hours on your cell phone just by simply dialing that number. Or if you miss it all, the archives will cover it for you at Blog Talk Radio or at New Live Stream if you want to watch it. Or you can listen to it on iTunes, and you can find the archives. So God bless you. We hope you somehow will get the gospel of Jesus Christ to you some way, somehow, in Jesus' name.